Nothing, Amanda. Nothing in my cup. Way too early. Hey, Mark. Hey, John. Yeah, this would be an interesting topic. I didn't plan on it. Something made me think about it today. Oh, wait. Bluetooth. Sorry. You guys hear me okay? Oh, I'm just checking my sound. Okay. You guys hear me okay? Someone let me know. Okay, Bill, I'll check on it. Yeah, Yoris. I speak very funny. It's a combination, Yoris, of New Jersey and hillbilly. All right. I'm curious to see everyone's take on this subject. I didn't plan on doing this, but I had a lesson today that made me think of it. I'd be curious to know your answer on that, Doc. Hey, Vincent, Marco. You guys hear me okay, guys? Just let me know. You know what? I'm gonna take the Bluetooth off because I can't tell if you guys can hear me or not. Let me see if I do this. Hello? All right. All right. Gonna take these out. All right. Is that fine? You guys hear okay? All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Over that. All right. Hey, Dallas. Carlos. Thank you. All right, Ken. All right. So I was wondering if you guys make corrections on a dog in public. And I'm going to explain to you why I thought of that today. It's pretty interesting to me because I caught myself thinking about this. So, and I didn't schedule this. It's not planned. So if no one comes on, if one person's on, that's fine. Hey, Catherine. I'm sorry, Catherine. It's the cheesiest thing ever. Hey, what's up, Byron? So here's the thing. I had a new client today, right? I started today was a first lesson, and I actually went to Nashville instead of having the client come here and met in a park that I used to train in a lot, public place, which I normally don't do. I normally don't start off training in a public place, right? They come to me, we do that at my home for the most part, or I go to them if they're local. But this client I knew, and he was a client over 10 years ago. And his previous German Shepherd I trained, very difficult dog, very difficult dog he had. And his name's David. If you're watching, David, he did a great job. He's one of those dream clients that really wants to learn, and he does whatever you tell him. So I said, you know what? Let's just meet at the park today. A nice day out in Nashville. And we went there. I told him just not to feed the dog this morning. We were doing it fairly early this morning, 10:30. I said, don't feed the dog and bring the dog's food. So today's first lesson, it was only going to be about teaching the dog to learn. That's it. Just start laying. It's an 8-month-old female German Shepherd. Just start teaching the dog to learn. Lay that foundation of communication so we could start training in a week or two. All right. Teach the reward marker, teach a release command, right? Teach the dog to chase the hand, to chase the food, to manipulate the dog, get the dog to start interacting with you. Just teach the dog how to learn. That's simple. And I make it insanely simple for the client and the dog. So not only do they enjoy it, but they will do it, right? It's not a hassle to go home and do that. And what happened when I got there, for one, he didn't bring any food, and I didn't have any. I wasn't prepared with a ton of stuff today, and I normally have everything on me, but I just kind of winged it today. And so he had the dog on a 15-foot long line with a bunch of knots tied in it, and I had to ask him, I say, David, is this the same leash you were using over 10 years ago when we met? He laughed. He said, yeah. So I thought that was great. So I said, all right, we're just going to train without food. No big deal. But I did want to use the dog's food today to start laying that foundation. So he actually ran down to the gas station. He was going to get something. I said, just grab a pack of hot dogs if they have it. And they didn't. So he came back with some of the, cooked hot dogs. No big deal. So we cut them up. We had a little bit of food. But of course, what I thought we were going to do, we didn't do. And it almost always goes like that, right? You never do what you think you're going to do. So I did have him try to start laying a little reward marker down and just get the dog to pay attention to him. But I won't go too much into detail there. I wasn't working out too well. The dog was very reactive whenever she would see other dogs. I mean, even from far away. I mean, far, far away. She would become very anxious and very reactive. So the first thing I wanted him to do was literally just get the dog to be still with him, nothing else. So when people think about the basics, right, they're always thinking about teaching the sit, the place, the down. That's not what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about, let's focus on the basics. I mean, the first thing we need is that the dog stops moving all around you, going behind you, has the nose to the ground, walking over here, walking over there. For me, that's the first thing I address. We need the dog to be with you. That's it. All right. So that wasn't going really well. And so what happened was, after we did a little work with the food with him, I said, give me the dog. You guys stay right here. He had his little girl with him. And I went off to the side a little bit. But this, like I said, is a very public place. And the first thing I did was I laid a few pretty firm leash corrections. Now, mind you, this dog was on just a thin, flat collar that she could easily slip out of. We didn't have the proper training equipment today, and that's my fault. I should have had everything just in case. But because I know David and we have that relationship, I kind of knew what I was getting, and I didn't worry about him because he's a pretty awesome dude. So I laid a couple pretty firm corrections with the leash on the dog for blowing up and not being able to contain herself. And now, mind you, there's a food truck right there, too. There's people at the food truck. There's people in the park. There's dogs all over. But it did make me think, not that what I did was that bad or anything, but you know how things can be perceived, right? And I don't know how many corrections I gave her, but I was pretty firm with her because I had to get her to settle down and stop the reactivity with all the other dogs, and it wasn't a healthy state of mind she was in. Again, mind you, I never do first lessons in a public place. Never. Today was kind of like a fluke because I rarely start implementing any kind of corrections or punishment in the beginning of training. I rarely do it. Does it happen? Of course. But I usually like training with minimal distractions in the beginning, right? Well, things happen, things change. So we deal with it. We work with the situation we have and the dog we have. So after a few fairly firm leash corrections with her, she really settled down a little bit and actually started tuning into me a little bit, right? Because this whole time she never looked at her owner, never looked at me, just like this, nose to the ground like this. For one, I need to stop that nose from going to the ground. Once the nose goes to the ground, we're losing her. She's already hunting and sniffing and getting all worked up and anxious. And then she sees the dogs and it just snowballs into anxiety and reactivity. Not good. And you guys know what I'm talking about when we talk about these German Shepherds, these young Shepherds, right? Hey, Oscar, what's going on, buddy? Hello, Denise. And so I lay a couple of firm leash corrections on her. And she starts tuning into me. So very quickly, I show the owner what I'm talking about with food, how to create play with the food, just so I could address it later and he could do it this week at home. But the first thing I went into, the only thing she knows is how to sit, right? And she barely knows that. I'm sure at home she does great, but now we're in a very busy public place, right? So the first couple of times I had to manipulate her into a sit, right? With the leash and pushing not down on the butt, in on the butt. So she goes right down, but she could hold it for a total of about 1.3 seconds, right? And I would just put her back down. I'm not correcting her for that. I'm just going back to it. The second she could hold it long enough, I start implementing the release command right from the start that I want her to know. She doesn't have a release command. So right from that, she holds it just a second. She looks at me. I say, free dog. And now I start playing with her. No toys, no tug, no food, no nothing. I start playing with her. I'm getting her hyped up and I'm patting her and I'm pushing her away from me. And she's flying around. And I ask her for a sit. I have to help her the first few times, but now I ask her to hold it a little longer, right? And she starts holding it. She starts looking at me. I say, free dog, and now we're playing. Then I ask her for a sit, and I move away. And as she goes to move, I close the space with spatial pressure. I say, She sits back down. I move back. I say, Harley, come. And she comes to me, and I break into play. And we're playing. We're having a good time. I repeat this several times. I ask her for a sit, come, free dog. Woo, we're playing. We're having a good time, right? I'm showing them what we're talking about. Now, all of a sudden, the dog is not focused on everything else. The dog is focused on me. Like, she's like, okay, this is actually pretty cool. And now, while she's focused on me and she's having fun, we're playing. Remember, no toys. I'm the toy. I'm the game. Where a lot of people get caught up, guys, you're focused so much on the toy, and the dog has a lot of interest in the toy, but not in the game. The dog should have the interest in the game between you and the dog, not the actual object. You know what I mean? So now I do get a tug out. Sorry, first I got a flirt pole out. Puppy flirt pole. And she's an 8-month-old dog, so she's not that little. I get the flirt pole out, and she goes crazy. She's ready, you know? She grabs it and we're playing. I'm just pulling it. I'm letting her carry it around. She's having a grand old time. And so I got away from the flirt pole really quick and I took out a tug, right? Which she had interest, but she didn't know how to bite it. She just didn't know. But I kind of got her going with that. A lot of dogs, when you present it to them the way we play tug, a lot of dogs will have an issue grabbing it, right? Especially insecure dogs, which she is. But once I take the end of it and treat it like a flirt pole, she starts to learn how to grab, and from there we progressed, okay? So the rest of the lesson, that's what I did. I had a place board there. I started introducing that to her, not with a command, not pulling her up there, just hanging around it with the tug that she's already having a ball with. The owner has already done a tremendous job teaching her an out. She's got her out. That's not even an issue. She outs every time I ask her, thanks to the owner. So now when she's next to the place board, she's trying to activate me, and she's barking and she's moving, and I'm not doing anything. I'm just waiting. Hey, Bill. Hello, David. Yeah, before 1 a.m. The second one paw hit the place board, I said yes, and I threw it just a couple of feet because you don't want to overthrow the dog and have her choke herself with that thin collar on, right? And boy, she was prancing around and running. Now there's people watching and there's people smiling because this dog's having a ball, right? She's dropping it. We're playing. I take her back next to the place board and I'm waiting, and she's barking and she's trying to figure it out. I'm not doing anything. She touches it with one paw. Yes, I throw it. I'm not playing tug. I'm throwing it. I'm getting more interest in the tug that way. And she's having a grand old time. Like, now this dog is working. There's dogs all around, and all of a sudden she's not reactive anymore. Not paying any attention to that stuff. Okay? Now I tell the owner how we're teaching her to go on there. I don't care about the place. I care about the dog thinking and working and trying to activate me. So now I tell them, now we're going to wait for 2 paws. and she goes on there with one paw, I do nothing. She's waiting. She touches it with a second. Yes, I throw the tug. You get the picture, right? We went on and on and on until finally I'm asking her to go on there completely. I just wait. Now, when she goes on there with two, at one point she had three paws. She's waiting, like, why isn't he throwing this thing? You know, why isn't he doing anything? Why isn't he? And I just wait till finally that fourth leg comes on and I say yes. And now I'm throwing the tug and we're playing tug. So now I start incorporating sit, come, place, mixing it up, different combinations. Sometimes I'm marking and rewarding. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm just releasing with the free dog. Sometimes I'm not. Okay. So we're taking the things the dog knows, which was only a sit basically, and not very well. And we're teaching her without really saying too much. We're making this dog think and work and act like a German Shepherd, right? So anyone who trains dogs know we see so many of these shepherds that struggle because they're not provided with what they need physically or mentally. Okay. And this dog is right on the verge, 8 months old, of being a nightmare, because when you start getting reactive with dogs that are 100 yards away, that's not a good sign. And I told the owner that. I was like, this is going to be a problem if we don't address this now. But going back to the corrections, I did think about it because there's so many people there. And if someone breaks out a camera, now, you guys that know me, I'm a pretty light-handed trainer. I'm not a harsh trainer. If I have to be, I will be. I don't have an issue with that. But if someone would have just filmed me popping her with the leash and nothing else, how do you deal with that, right? They can make you look really, really bad. Good thing I'm in a very public place with a lot of people, and it would be hard to kind of accuse anyone of anything. But the point is, without those initial corrections up front, firm corrections, we don't move forward with that dog today. We can't start teaching that dog how to learn because the mind was so switched off and so focused on everything except what we need her to be. We need her to be. Okay. Was that the best place to do the first lesson? Absolutely not. But you do what you're given. I didn't mind it, like I said, because I know the owner and he's an awesome dude. And this guy does a good job with his dogs. Right. So my goal today was just to start teaching the dog how to learn, but more importantly, to educate the owner how to teach her how to learn. And where better to do that to where she does struggle a little bit. We could have done that at their house where she's used to being with nothing around, and she doesn't learn half of what she learns today. And the owner doesn't learn half of what he learns today. So there was a very, very good lesson in there. And I tell you what, this doll is a ball of fire, but because we set the foundation with those corrections up front, I wasn't accepting no bullshit, right? Once we got to a point where when she was, after the first correction or two, or she was looking around and she sees dogs and, the ears were up and she's interested, but the mouth is open and she's breathing, I'm okay with that. Enjoy the scenery, enjoy the park, be a dog, take everything in. I'm not going to teach the dog to look at me. That's bullshit. I have no interest in that, right? There's things the dog's interested in, so you teach the dog, look at me. Look at me? Oh, good boy, good girl. Here you go. Yes. No, I want the dog to be able to look around. For me, it's more important that the dog could look around and take everything in without being a basket case, okay? Teaching the dog to pay attention to you when there's something that stresses it around fixes nothing. It's not even a Band-Aid. It just hides the issue. All right. Now, with that being said, she's looking around and she's alert. I'm okay. The ears are up. She's alert, but the mouth is open. She's breathing. Okay. And I told the owner, this is okay. If the mouth closes, I'm going to correct that immediately. She's looking around like this. The second this goes from this, boom, I corrected it firmly. I only had to do that once. Okay. Because then from there, If she starts getting close to that point and you say, hey, knock this shit off, that's enough. She's like, all right, I got you. I understand. You know, the issue is if we weren't comfortable making the corrections right in that moment, we set the dog up to make things a lot more difficult for her to learn. So where do you draw that fine line? Because everyone's got a camera, right? The thing is, I never do anything to a dog behind closed doors that I don't do in public or in front of the owners. I don't do it. I don't have to. I don't need to. I'm an open book. Okay. If I have to correct a client's dog firmly, like very firmly even, they know about it. I tell them. So why should I behave any differently out in public? I know it's hard. I know it's a tough decision, but between the corrections and then the initial play, instead of trying to get her to, force food down her throat or to try to get her to bite things, I became the game right from the start, and if you guys would have seen her at the end, by time we were wrapping things up and me and the owner were talking and I was telling him what I need from him this week, this dog is over there doing one of these. And then I would turn and I do back and now we're playing and I'm swiping at it and she's running and then she's throwing it. I turn my back, I'm ignoring her. She's throwing the tug. Hey, take it. Come on, let's play. That's a beautiful thing. That's an absolutely beautiful thing because at that point, that dog is yours. You got her. You guys are already connected. And it all started with laying a very clear, well-timed correction on that dog. That's where that success came from today. And you know what? If I didn't know the client, if he wasn't a previous client, maybe I have even more trouble doing that with a new client. That's something that just dawned on me now. So these are all things that you have to consider. Maybe if that's a total stranger that I've never met, maybe I don't do that because maybe I start thinking too much and overthink things. And, people know I'm not a very heavy-handed trainer. I treat the dogs well. So maybe someone sees me for the first time and the first thing I do is physically correct their dog. They might be like, whoa, so everything we heard about this guy is full of shit. So all these things affect how we train, all of them. But if you're honest and you treat the people right and you treat the animals right, that truth will always show through, always. And that was actually what sucked today. There was one time the owner threw the tug too far and the dog hit the end of the line and got tangled and let out a pretty good scream. That attracts attention. And then towards the end, we were sitting on the bench and he stepped on her back legs and she's very dramatic, and really started screaming. And so we're like, oh, geez, because there's people all over. It's going to hear that. They're going to be like, what are they doing with this dog? And you compare that to correcting the dog in public in the beginning. But here's the thing, guys. If you're not willing to correct your dog in public, do you take your dog in public and allow them to exhibit behaviors that you are okay with them getting away with? That's a tough question. That's a really, really tough question. You know what I mean? But hey, George, if your dog has prior bite history, don't start at the park, though. Some people, yeah, absolutely, Catherine. No, not even close. No, that's a good point, what Catherine said here. If your dog has a bite history, listen, if your dog's reactive, aggressive, any of that stuff, and it comes to me, your dog's not going to be put in that situation for a while. We're going to have a really strong foundation before I ever expect the dog to be okay with that. Today was, like I said, was a total fluke. So unlike me. I just threw caution. I set the lesson yesterday for because he's been trying to get with me for a while and I just haven't had the time. And I texted him last night, hey, let's meet tomorrow. I'll come down there. We'll meet at the park. Okay, great. So it was all like that. And I'm really glad it did. I'm really glad it did. Hey, Roddy. Hey, Jorn. Because it made me think. And I'm like, okay, if I'm feeling this right now, if I know eyes are on me and I have to think twice about correcting this dog, I can't imagine what other people feel, or maybe younger trainers or someone who doesn't know the right answer. Not that I'm saying that's always the right answer, but it was very fascinating. But at the same time, It was those corrections that led that dog to put a little more belief and trust in me, that it didn't have to worry about the other things. And what I tried to explain to the owner was, because he was just ignoring that, and I said, what happens here is right now she's getting rewarded when she blows up like this, because one of two things happens. Either he removes her from the situation. That's no different than giving her a toy or a piece of food when she does something wrong. Or the dog that's creating the stress, the owner sees that dog going insane and the owner walks the other way, again rewarding that dog big time, right? So the dog learns how to keep dogs away. And what he told me was, he said, so I knew more where this dog's head was. The other day, they were out front by his house, and a dog came running over from out of nowhere. And this dog, she didn't go after the dog. She backed up, barking and yelling. She backed up behind him. So she's very uncomfortable with dogs. But you guys know how that goes. If we don't address that now, that fear gets worse and worse. 8, 9 months old, you know that's when the real dog starts coming out and starts changing. And then it's just a nightmare. You know, a well-done correction is fairly invisible. Yeah, not today, George. It couldn't have been. And a big part of that, that's a good point, is because we had the wrong equipment on the dog. And so if you missed it earlier, I said he just had a very loose, thin, almost like puppy flat collar on the dog. You know, something the dog can slip out of, something you had no leverage over. So everything was actually exaggerated. Instead of being invisible, you have a prong collar on, it could be very invisible. You have a well-fitted collar up high, it could be invisible. You know, have a dominant dog collar, invisible. That kind of collar, very, very tough to deal with. But we addressed all that. So, you know, we're able to address all that and tell them, this has got to go. We need a wide collar, and this is why. So it was really great. Like, I really, truly enjoyed it. I almost stopped doing privates again, but then when you meet people like Harley's owner, it's just absolutely fantastic. Scott, should I use a different marker word from what I use for come when training in conditioning phase and doing a place command? Yeah, you use place. You use the command you're using. You know, whatever you're asking the dog to do, that's the command you give. Keep things very literal, very simple. You know, Catherine says, I had a dog come in Elsie. I put her away, went back to the young man. I asked instantly, why is your dog here at the park? He said she's bit a couple dogs. He thought walking her next to them would fix it. Instead of being mad, I realized it is probably a common mistake. Absolutely, Catherine. And there was a lot of off-leash dogs today. I actually saw several. Hey, Nick, I saw several very well-behaved dogs playing fetch and stuff in the park, you know. So that was impressive. But then I saw some more unruly dogs on leash. But yeah, you know, people to Mark, no to New York. I don't know what that means, Mark. I don't know. Let's see. Marcus, I rarely comment, but I remember in a video you made on YouTube, you were pro bonker and referenced Gary Wilkes. And then a few days ago, you said, I guess we evolve, our opinions changes, but I worked wonders for my pup and he was really puppy. Only had to use it a handful of times. I have a Doberman and they are an easy breed. I think the bonks in the beginning helped tremendously. Curious to hear. That's a great question, Marcus. I talked about this the other night. I tried to be pro bonker. I try to have an open mind. It's just not my thing, you know, and certainly would never do it in public, you know, but it's not my thing, you know. I'm not going to say it's never going to work or be effective, but you have to kind of take the whole picture into context, Marcus, and think about how many people, we've seen some of them on videos that have gone around, how many people are going to do that wrong at the wrong time in the wrong situation with the wrong dog and make things so much worse. That's why it's just not something I can be behind, you know. If your dog was doing something, you know, it's barking in the window and you're away from it, I have no issue with throwing something that can't physically hurt the dog at it to interrupt that behavior. But having a dog next to you and just whacking it, it's not my thing. If you want to do that, that's totally, totally okay. But you know, that's I've tried to be open minded. I've even been open minded in videos about it on YouTube. I think that's what you mentioned. It's just not my thing, Marcus. I've tried, because there's going to be so much more bad from people that come from good, and to me, all it is, it's nothing new. My grandparents were rolling up newspapers, 40 something years ago. Bunking's not new. You understand what I'm saying? Did it work for them? In many ways, yes. Is doing it now in many ways going to work certain situations? Yes. But where will be the negative side effect? I don't know. Nick says it's an interesting question. You know what, Marcus, I can't believe no one's asked me that sooner. I really am, because I have tried to be pro bonker. My thing with the bonker, you realistically have to carry the bonker around everywhere you go. Just seems like a bad band-aid to me. Yeah, that's another issue. That's another issue. George says, what is your opinion on throw chains a la Keeler? I guess it depends where you throw them, George. I mean, there's so much of good what we see in dog training today is come from Keeler. I think it gets a really bad rap in so many ways, and I understand it. It's funny you say that, George, because years ago I stayed far away from it. I never read the book. I never talked to anyone about it, because the first few people I talked to were telling me just how horrendous it was and how brutal on the dogs. So I know there's a lot that we all do that's based in that system. I think if you throw a chain at a dog, you better hope you don't hit it in the wrong place. I'd rather throw a bonker at a dog than a chain, but that's just me. But again, throwing something and hitting a dog in a certain place is two different things, if that makes sense. So I don't know. Let's see. Frank, Larry, you mentioned your dog sleep in your bedroom, crated or not, then on the floor. How do you handle being romantic, the dirty deed, with a partner in the circumstances while your dog is around? That's the thing. I put blindfolds on them, Frank. They're not allowed to watch. Okay. All right. that's the first time anyone's ever asked me that. Let's address that. All dogs are different. Okay. When me and my wife were young, like long before how I shouldn't give so much information here. My dog back home, when I still lived with my parents, you had to lock him in another room. It was bad. The howling, everything, it was not good. My dogs now totally ignore it, except for Luca can get a little antsy and want to come inspect things. So I have to be very firm with him about going to lay down. No one's ever, Frank, that's a great question. I'm trying to be so careful how I answer that, if you want to I'm not even, forget it. Thank God I'm not drinking right now. Never mind. I'm going to get off. George, one should read the book at least twice before picking up. Yeah, you know what? Definitely, George. I definitely agree with that. It definitely should be a staple in everyone's dog training journey. And I think a lot of it's misinterpreted, or depends on how I'm no expert on it, and I'm not pretending to be. I would love to have someone on here and just talk about Keeler and let them speak on it. I wouldn't ask questions, nothing, because I'd be curious to see how everyone's take, or someone who's really followed it or into it, would there you go, Oscar. Asking because I think our Rottweiler thinks we are playing or being aggressive. All you got to do there, Frank, is spread a little peanut butter on your backside, and he'll be like the lady who puts on her head to clip the nails. You'll totally keep him occupied, and you'll probably enjoy it a little bit too. I should not even be going there. I really shouldn't. I don't even know how we got to this right here. All right. Let me see. Christy, if a client dog is reactive while we're in public, I have my clients keep them in motion with turns into away from engaging with them. I don't teach focus because the dog should naturally learn to focus on their owners. Yeah, but if it's reactive in public, Christy, do you really want to put them in that situation yet? So it's kind of a iffy thing. I don't put them in the situation. I mean, eventually you're going to have to, but my goal is always to have the foundation laid strong enough to where if that reactivity does show, it's fairly easy to deal with. Hey, George, outside of the Keeler book, what would be your next choice go to for books? I'd be curious to know that. I'm just trying to see if there's any more questions. I won't keep you guys, man. I didn't I'm so putting peanut butter on my husband. Yeah, I don't know how we got there, man. I don't know how we got there. I would, George, but Tony unfriended me, so I figure that's for a reason, and I'm not comfortable asking a lot of people to come on to do the lives. I'm really not. I'm just not comfortable bothering people with that stuff. Normally, if I know the person or I get enough people saying, "Hey, you got to get him on," then I'll try to. But I hate bothering people to do this shit. I really do. I'd have Tony on in a heartbeat to talk about it. But like I said, he unfriended me, so I figure it's for a reason. I probably wouldn't ask him to come on. Let me see. Let's see. What Celeste says, "Hi, my Roddy will circle around me like a tight hug when he is on leash. Why is that? You got to take control of that, Celeste. You got to stop him. You stop that movement. That's the first thing I focus on. The dog is on leash. It's got to be with me. It's got to be relaxed. I'm not going to ask the dog to sit. I'm not going to ask him to down. I'm not going to ask for anything, but I'm going to stop that movement because that is your first step in taking control. That's your first step in that dog understanding that you are in control. And when you allow that to take place, you're telling your dog, I have no control. And if you're allowing that, you could forget about taking care of the outside issues and distractions that the dog might have, may it be other people or dogs or squirrels or anything. So before those behavioral problems on the outside, at least for me, can be addressed, the dog has to understand how to be still with you. It's that simple. It's that basic. No nose into the ground, no walking behind you, no pulling away. I tell people all the time, when I get a new client coming here, or even not a new one, just a client coming to my home, I'm outside waiting. I don't wait till they call me that they're here or ring my bell. I'm outside waiting for them to show up. And when they show up, I'm watching them get out of the car with the dog. And the second that dog puts its nose to the ground and the owner's following the dog, I say, put him back in the car and do it again. This time, do it properly. Okay. Now that dog's not going to go sniff and pee and do all that stuff until the dog relaxes with them and the owner says, free dog. That's how you start that lesson. Okay. Because if you allow that to go on, you're done. You're absolutely done. Don't even bother training because you're fighting uphill. That's some interesting questions here. That's a very interesting question. Let's see. Correctamundo. I like that's something I haven't heard in a while. Aaron, even evening. Keep up the. Hey, Aaron, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was something I did or said George, I couldn't tell you. I've talked to him online before. It's been a long time, and I know he's very knowledgeable. And yeah, it'd be great to have him, but I don't, I couldn't tell you. One can get something out of every book, good or bad. Yeah, absolutely, George. There's no doubt about it. You know, would you pick there's a good question. Would you pick the Bart Balone course or the Ivan Balabanov course? Both. Don't ever limit yourself. You just you pick both. You don't limit yourself. Learn from both of them. They're two of the best out there. I'd want to learn everything I could from the best people out there, not one person, but as many as I possibly can. You're going to take a lot from both, and then what you can do, Natalie, is you're going to favor one or the other just because of your personality and your style of training or how you are with the animals. You'll get a feel on which one, and it may be a combination. You may prefer one side for one area and one side for the other, but I would do everything I could to do both, absolutely. Training advice on dogs and other things. Yeah. I'm asking if you'll ever come to New York. Yeah, absolutely, Mark. That's my home. Jersey's my home, New York area. So as soon as things are back to normal, my wife has not seen her parents in a very long time because of this COVID thing. I'm sure we'll be going there. And I really need to get to Manhattan and hit some of my restaurants. So, yeah. You got Blake Rodriguez is in New York. You got a few other people there, too, that I know I'm going to forget a bunch of names right now, but Blake's the first one that pops into my head. I think Byron Flores is in that area. Jason Cohn's in that area. I know there's others too. Tell him I sent you. Yeah, you tell him, George, But I don't know if you guys have any questions. But the corrections in public thing, guys, it's a real issue. Samantha, 11-month-old shepherd, only pulls on leash when heading away from the house. Going toward the house, walks in perfect heel. Samantha, that's hysterical because it's almost always the complete opposite. Almost always the complete opposite. How to calm the excitement during the beginning of the walk. I want him to be happy and excited, but still obey his heeling. He does know free dog and looks right while heeling. Free dog, go sniff, very smart stuff. Work on the heeling at your home, outside, back and forth, Samantha, before you go any further. You want to teach him how to walk nicely. Otherwise, you're just going to be rewarding the bad walking, the bad behavior. Let me see. Paul, have you encountered aggression when unleashing dog after a walk? I have such a problem at the shelter. The dog tries to bite when I let him off leash. I'd have to know a little bit more. Have you ever encountered aggression when unleashing the dog? A lot of dogs just get excited there, Powell. And so, you have to kind of transition to it. And it depends what you're doing before you let them off leash. All that's very important. I don't know if that makes sense. Let me see. SJ, how do you handle excitement P? We do the no talk, no touch. Don't like sometimes she still will look right at you and pee. She has gotten better, but will like to stop it completely. I have some videos where I talk about that extensively. SJ, do not like sometimes she will look right at you and pee. She has gotten better, but would like to stop, but needs some more information. Tell me how old the dog is, where she's doing. Is she in the crate when she's peeing, when she's out of the crate when she's peeing? Because I have dealt with that quite a bit. Normally it's fairly easy, Do you know anyone in Indiana that follows your style of training? I'm not sure, Ryan. I'm sure I do. I just can't think right now. What video of yours would you recommend for first time using the e-collar? Tina, there's so many. I mean, they're all, look at the one I did with my daughter when she's a little older, like a year ago. And then I did a video recently with, I think, 2 or 3 different dogs where I'm focusing on introducing the e-collar, basic obedience, and walking all in one, because I did that to help the clients when I send the dog home when this whole COVID thing hit. And people find that, I guess, very beneficial. Until they see you the right way, training is going to be like pissing in the wind. Absolutely, Antoine. 100%, brother. No doubt about it. You have to be able to settle that dog down. What if, all right, here you go, Kristen. I got an answer for you. What if your husband has a peanut butter allergy? If he has a peanut butter allergy, spread it in places that would benefit if it swells up. That's it. Win-win for everybody. I'm going to get banned from Facebook after this one. Can you go over correct timing? It's kind of hard to talk about, Tyler, but if like today, for example, I talked about correcting that dog when the mouth closed. All right. Once the dog blows up, it's kind of hard to bring him back down. But when that dog was looking around and alert, but she was breathing normally and the mouth was open, I was okay with that. But the second that mouth closed, that means next step would have been the higher arousal. She would have blown up. I corrected that. That's where the timing of that thing comes from. Okay. Now, let's say if you want to correct, like when the dog was getting up out of a sit today, totally different. With the reactivity, I used the leash and the collar to physically correct the dog. When I put this dog in a sit today and she kept breaking it, I'm not physically going to correct that. The dog does not know how to do that. Okay. So correcting a dog for doing something that has to stop is different from correcting a dog from doing something she doesn't know how to do. So when I put her in the sit and she immediately got up, I didn't nail her with the leash. I'm not going to correct her physically. I'm going to let her know. I'm going to mark it the second and I'm going to close in the distance with spatial pressure, putting her right back to where she was. And probably the best way to answer that, go back and watch the video with Patton, the German Shepherd, where I had him at a distance down, putting his food down. That'll explain a lot more to you. All right, folks. All right. Somehow we're on 48 minutes. I thought this was going to be like a 10-minute thing. And so I think I'm going to let you homies roll out. Go enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Hey, Megan, can't wait to see you. COVID. Yeah, hopefully. I'm coming no matter what. Back to shelter, normal walking again. I'll unleash them, but when we come back, shelter box, or at least he tries to bite. Kristen. All right, folks. I just really wanted to talk about that. Are you willing to correct your dog in public? And I know a lot of people aren't. When training for obedience or behavior, should you be rewarding the results or the results looking for you? Frank, I don't know what that means. When training for obedience or behaviors, should you be rewarding for the results and results looking for you? I don't know what that means, Frank. I don't know. And obedience and behavior to me are 2 very separate things. Okay. Obedience in the beginning, when we're teaching new obedience commands, sit down, come, place, heel, all that stuff, rewarding a lot over and over and over, a lot, teaching the dog the behavior. Okay. Behavior to me is more silent, not a lot of talking, just a lot of doing together, creating that attitude in the dog that we want. All right. Scott, what you say there, Scott? I'll be in Tennessee this year with Randy. Hope to see you sometime. Well, Scott, when you get there with Randy, you let me know, because I'd love to see you. And we need to go out and grab a few drinks. I see Randy every now and then. I go down. Just a great guy. I'm glad he's here. I'm very grateful he's here. Really good dude. Really good dude. So yes, please do. I'd love to make that happen. All right, guys, I'll let you guys roll out of here. Just think about it before you put yourself in that situation and you don't know what you would do. I guess we got to think about that. because it hasn't dawned on me very much until today, because I normally don't put myself in that situation, you know. Chrissy, I'm looking forward to Destin, and I'm not looking forward to Destin because I don't know how I'm supposed to go work at a seminar when my family's at the beach. That's going to kill me. I may just drink through the whole seminar to kind of make it realistic, you know? All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Y'all have a great rest of your Sunday, and I'll see y'all soon, okay? Peace. Happy New Year.